All right, IPMNation.com listeners, this is Matt Connerton at the 4th Annual Holistic Fair in Nashua, New Hampshire, and I'm sitting here with Dorothy Morgan, who is a professional astrologer. How are you, Dorothy?
I'm doing good, thank you.
Good, good. Well, I think most people kind of have an idea about what astrology is, but can you tell us about it in a bit more detail than probably the average person knows?
What the average person knows about themselves as far as astrology is what sign they are, and that
Right.
is where the sun was on the day that they were born, what astrological sign in the universe where it was. And one of the most important things that most people don't realize, especially when they're looking at a horoscope in the paper, because everybody reads those
Oh, yeah.
for fun.
Yeah.
And sometimes they're pretty general, but sometimes they're on and sometimes they're not.
Right.
And when they do a forecast like that, what they're mainly looking at and writing that report from is what is on the horizon at the time that you're born. So to have an astrology reading, it's really one of the key things is, you can get them any way you want, but the key thing is to know what time you're born.
Okay.
Because to be a certain sign, what sign are you?
I'm a Scorpio.
Okay, so to be a Scorpio, the first thing you have to learn to do is to be what is on the horizon at the time you're born. So
Okay.
I don't know your chart right now, but if it was Aries, for say, you would need to learn how to be an Aries as a child before you could get to the energy of being that Scorpio.
Oh,
And then your moon sign, what the moon was, because the moon moves the quickest since it's the closest heavenly body to us.
Okay.
So the three important things in an astrology chart to start off with is your sun, your rising sign, and your moon sign. And so if you're going to read a horoscope that's general, that's not where you don't type in your birthday, time, and place,
Yeah.
you're going to want to know from somebody, find an astrologer, what your rising sign is, and you're going to want to read that.
Okay.
Because that's going to give you more information because of the way they produce those reports.
Oh, okay.
And so it'll be very accurate that way. And those are the most important things.
So does that mean that if you read your horoscope in the newspaper, it's kind of take it with a grain of salt?
Pretty much.
Okay.
Unless you were born at sunrise.
Okay.
And when you're born at sunrise, that means that your sun sign, you as a Scorpio, born at sunrise in November, that's around 7 to 8 in the morning,
Yeah.
depending on the part of the country you're born in. It would be more accurate for you because you have the same sign rising as you do as your sun sign.
Okay.
All right,
I see.
and so it works that way. And then emotions is the moon. What the moon is the most important one because it moves the quickest through the solar system, through our area, the Earth.
Right.
And so that one is very important as well. And that's how we handle things on an emotional basis, how we see the women in our lives, and how we handle the feminine energy around us.
Right, right. I do know that when I read about what a Scorpio is supposed to be like, it does seem in a very many ways close to who I am, aside from the whole control freak part of it, which seems to come up a lot in a lot of the books that I've read.
It does.
Although apparently my birthday is October 26th, so I'm told that means and I don't know a lot about this, but I'm told that means I'm on the cusp.
You are. So you're going.
with Libra. So.
You are. So you'll take on you'll have some Libra aspects.
Okay.
Because when you're born either very late in a sign or early in a sign, you're going to take on some characteristics of the sign either before you or after
I
you,
see.
depending on when you're born. But
makes
yes,
sense.
Scorpio energy is about, it's a deep understanding. The Scorpios can get obsessive and possessive.
Yeah.
So if you have a thought, you can be incredibly passionate, like with your radio here, incredibly passionate about it, and that is what you focus on.
Right,
So
right.
so there are positive, there's always a light side and a dark side to each sign.
Sure.
I'm a Gemini. I'm full of information, but Geminis at times can just talk so much that they just start making things up because there's just too much to talk about.
Sure.
But then
sure.
again, you look at the rising sign. I have Taurus rising, so that grounds me, slows me down most of the time.
Yeah.
I do talk fast sometimes, but it'll slow you down. And so that's why it's important to get a really good idea of who you are, have a natal chart done, the birth chart done. And then we throw in the planets, like for today, you throw in the planets where they are today. Look at the mathematical angles of what's going on to 9 planets 12 houses, 12 signs. There's a lot of different things going on. Everybody's life has good and bad every single day.
Now, if someone comes to you and they don't know what time, because I would venture to guess a lot of people have no idea what time of day they were born.
Yeah, that's true.
What do you do in that case? I mean, do you have to just give them a more generalized reading, or how do you handle that?
Both. They do get a more generalized reading because the house cusps are set up with the time that you're born, and what that means is there's 12 sections in the chart. The chart looks like a piece of pie. It's cut into 12 sections depending on what time you're born and the latitude and longitude, which I get that part. And so each area is a certain subject in life.
Yeah.
And so if somebody comes to me for a reading and they have a question of a specific question and they don't know what time they're born, I can do what's called a rectification. So I can actually ask questions. And because I'm not going to guess,
Sure.
we're going to interact with me. We're going to ask questions, and we're going to time out certain things that happen in their life, and we'll generally get a basic idea about when they were born.
No kidding.
And sometimes using a pendulum works too.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I use that too on
Do you
occasion.
do that often? Or?
Not often.
Not often.
Not often. But sometimes most people have an idea.
Yeah.
It's like, well, what did Mom say? You made my lunch late. And I start
Right,
asking.
right.
There's certain clues you can get, so we can get within an hour or two.
Oh, okay.
It helps.
Oh, okay.
It helps.
Do people come to you with specific questions, or do they tend to come to you more with they just want a generalized sort of forecast for the future? Or
It depends on the event that I'm at. I mean, today
Yeah.
we're at this fair, so people are just coming in just because it's fun
Yeah.
and it's something to do. They're not going to get a big, in-depth astrology reading at all at an event like this.
Sure,
I'll
sure.
put up their birth information and get a quick hit and just, see one of the most. I'll look at Saturn a lot because that's the planet that is the planet of karma. It's what teaches us our lessons. It's where we need to be learning lessons in that area of life. And so if they don't know, I'll just use my intuition because I use that a lot as well in readings, and I'll just start talking and they start shaking their heads so I know I'm on the right track.
Right,
But
right.
for a full hour reading, I like to have all that information ahead of time because I like to study somebody's chart for a couple hours ahead of time.
Yeah.
People come to me for, well, what's my life purpose? That's a whole different chart, or when should I start this business? How's this marriage going to go? So you can see and you can actually, with astrology, plan the best time. It doesn't mean if you don't do this, things are going to fall to the wayside.
Sure.
It's just the best way to use astrology is just to see what energies are most productive for what you're trying to do.
Yeah.
And if you're in a year or two period of inner reflection, the last thing you want to be doing is trying to launch a business.
Right.
So I give them, feedback like that. So
Sure.
it's always a mix.
How did you get into doing astrology?
I moved back from New Mexico to my parents and worked for my parents' flower shop, and there was a girl there who had just started learning astrology, and I was immediately hooked, and
No kidding.
we basically learned. She was only about a year ahead of me, so we
Yeah.
basically learned together, and 20-something years later,
Yeah.
here I am.
Yeah.
And and now I also incorporate angels.
Do you? Yeah.
I do angel readings
Okay.
because some people are just so intimidated by astrology that they just don't want to do it because they don't know anything about it.
Right. Right.
Which is my job. They don't have to know anything about it.
Well, what is the biggest misconception that you run into about astrology? Because I bet there's some good ones.
What's the best sun sign? What's the best sign for me in a relationship?
Oh,
That's the
okay.
biggest misconception.
Yeah.
There's 9 planets, 12 houses, 12 signs, and so it's not just like what we started with. It's not just your sun that is the key to a good relationship.
Yeah.
Because there's when you were born and when somebody else was born, you put all that together, and then you're going to see that there's some good things and there's some tough things.
Right.
And the tough things are the things that you need to work through, and they are what makes a relationship last.
Yeah.
So the tougher planets, you want to see those aspects.
Right.
Gives you your problems so you can make this relationship long term.
Okay.
When you have Venus and Mars in a really good aspect, that's a relationship that's passionate and
Right.
very physical at first, burns out. if there isn't a couple of the tougher aspects in there. So that's the
Sure.
biggest misconception.
Okay.
You know, some of the signs do work better together compatibly. The mutable signs, Sagittarius and Gemini as an opposition, they do tend to work better than
Sure.
others, and Pisces and Virgo,
Sure.
because they just do.
But there's no hard, fast rules
No.
about this sign and this sign should never be together.
There is not. There is not, because your moons is both of your moons could be very different,
Sure.
and that could be the connection that helps.
Sure. I'm gonna remember this. The next time I meet a woman who won't date a Scorpio, I'm gonna play this interview for her.
Very good. Sounds like a plan. You call me and I'll do up a chart for both of you.
Yeah, there we go.
See how well it works.
Well, how can people find you online?
Well, they can find me online at my website, and it is Natural Rites, RITES, charms.com.
Okay.
And I have a new moon and full moon forecast on the website that's free.
Oh.
And I have a weekly forecast that is by subscription, and that's $5 a month.
Oh, okay.
And then all of the readings, the different types of readings that I do, are explained on the website. And I also have the angel readings on there. I'm also a Reiki master teacher,
Okay.
so there is a full schedule of classes. I teach classes down at Circles of Wisdom
Okay.
and Hancock Metaphysical Center over in Hancock, New Hampshire.
Okay.
Just started over there.
Oh, great.
So Natural Rites and Charms .com, and lots more information there too.
Okay. And do you have any other events or anything coming up that you want to mention? Any
I
appearances
do.
you're going to be making?
I can't remember. I have an event on May 23rd at the New Age, New Earth Metaphysical Center in Salisbury, Massachusetts.
Okay.
And that's also listed on my website.
Okay, great.
And I start a class this coming Wednesday, Wednesday's date? May 6th.
May 6th.
May
okay.
6th, Wednesday night at Circles of Wisdom. It's a beginner astrology course,
Okay.
just so people can learn a little bit more about themselves. You don't have to become an astrologer to take the class.
Okay, great.
Just gives you a little more information. If you went, you'd learn what your rising sign was, what your moon sign, what all that means.
Sure.
So
Okay.
it's real basic.
All right. Well, Dorothy, I've been asking everybody today. Do you have any parting words of wisdom for our listeners on IPMNation.com?
Yes, nothing is set in stone. It's all about the choices that we make.
Yeah, well said.
Thank
well
you.
said. Absolutely. Well, Dorothy Morgan, thanks for being with us today.
Thank you very much.